In a stunning turn the palace never planned to explain, it finally happened. King Charles III, under mounting pressure and behind sealed doors, has officially removed Queen Camilla from her royal role and named Princess Catherine as Queen Consort, effective immediately. There was no grand ceremony, no farewell. One day, Camilla was queen. The next, her name vanished from court documents. No public explanation, no apology, just a single line on the royal website, and Catherine's new title in gold. Royal watchers are in disbelief. Is this a royal strategy or a quiet rebellion inside the crown itself? The crown shifts. It happened just days after Donald Trump's headline-making state visit to the UK. The public was still buzzing from the red carpets and stiff handshakes when King Charles III, now 76, took the microphone for his second major royal address. But instead of reflecting on politics or protocol, he dropped a line that sliced through centuries of tradition. "Catherine," he said, "is stepping into the role of Queen Consort." No build-up, no soft landing, just shock. The room froze. This wasn't a vague reference to one day or in due time. Charles made it clear Catherine wasn't being prepared for the role. She was already doing it. The same title once formally sealed for Camilla Parker Bowles in 2022 had now been spoken over someone else. This wasn't just symbolic. It was seismic. A single sentence upended 2 decades of royal planning. Inside Buckingham Palace, senior aides reportedly scrambled. Sources say Charles had rehearsed the line privately for over a week, locking it in only the day before. The monarch, long seen as cautious and traditional, had made an uncharacteristically bold move. Why? Because time was running out. And because, in his own words, the monarchy must endure. The public reaction was instant. Support flooded social media. Newspapers ran the phrase Queen Catherine across front pages for the first time. One headline simply read, "The crown has shifted." And just like that, Catherine went from consort in waiting to the face of the monarchy. But this royal twist didn't come out of nowhere. Behind Charles's decision was a slow-burning crisis, one the palace could no longer ignore. While Catherine rose, Camilla was disappearing, and people had begun to ask, where exactly was the Queen? Camilla's crisis. The first signs came in February 2025. A missed appearance at a charity gala was chalked up to sinusitis. Then came a cancelled speech at St. Paul's Cathedral, and whispers started to grow. By May, Camilla was a no-show at the funeral of the Duchess of Kent, an event she was expected to lead. 3 disappearances in less than 4 months. Something was clearly wrong. Official statements remained vague, recovering, fatigued, private health matters, but insiders told a different story. One palace staffer revealed Camilla had been exhausted beyond measure, battling more than just a cold. Doctors advised full rest. But rest wasn't an option. Not with royal duties piling up, and not with Catherine quietly stepping into her place. By June 2025, Camilla had pulled out of another high-profile event, the annual diplomatic dinner. The Queen Consort, once praised for her reliability, was becoming an unpredictable presence. And at the rare events she did attend, her appearance was alarming. Thin, pale, withdrawn. During one short walk outside Clarence House, cameras caught her gripping Charles's arm with both hands. She was visibly struggling. Media outlets hesitated, but royal watchers didn't. Articles emerged with one shared question: Can Camilla still fulfill her role? And more pointedly, should she? As Camilla stepped back, Catherine stepped forward. But she didn't just fill the gap, she transformed it. In a matter of weeks, she wasn't just helping, she was leading. And during the most high-pressure moment of the year, she stole the show. Catherine steps in. When Donald Trump landed at Heathrow in September 2025, the world turned its eyes on Britain. It wasn't just a political event, it was a test for the monarchy. Charles stood tall. Camilla made a single brief appearance. But it was Catherine, Princess of Wales, who dominated every scene. From the first handshake on the tarmac to the final bow at the white tie banquet, Catherine was everywhere, glowing in custom Alexander McQueen, managing protocol with ease, and engaging foreign dignitaries with quiet authority. She didn't flinch. She didn't falter. She led. One ambassador reportedly said, "She is the monarchy now." Behind palace walls, it was no secret. This wasn't just support. This was substitution. Catherine chaired planning meetings. She oversaw guest arrangements. She worked side by side with Foreign Office staff, impressing even veteran diplomats. One insider told the press, the palace didn't ask her to do it. She just did. By the end of the visit, British headlines had crowned her the People's Queen. Polls released 2 days later showed Catherine's approval rating jump to 92%, the highest ever for a modern royal consort. The public wasn't just watching her rise, they were cheering it. And so, the visit meant more than handshakes and headlines. It exposed a deep truth inside the palace. One queen was struggling to stay visible, while another had already taken the throne in people's hearts. The turning point had arrived, and no one could stop it. The state visit that changed everything. What was supposed to be a routine diplomatic affair quickly became a royal turning point. Donald Trump's 2025 state visit to the UK was planned with all the usual pomp: motorcades, banquets, protocol. But inside Buckingham Palace, it became something much more. A stress test for the monarchy. And one figure stood at the center of it all. Not Charles, not Camilla, but Catherine. From the very start, it was clear who was in command. As Trump arrived at the grand entrance, it was Catherine who greeted him first, smiling, poised, unshaken. She walked him through the receiving line. She engaged in fluent conversation. During the state banquet, where Camilla made her one and only appearance, all eyes drifted, not to the queen consort, who looked worn and barely lasted the full event, but to the Princess of Wales, radiant and composed in every frame. For many in the media, the contrast was impossible to ignore. One photograph said it all. Camilla seated, visibly tired, while Catherine stood, offering a toast with grace and control. Foreign guests, accustomed to pageantry, were reportedly stunned by Catherine's command of the room. She moved like a monarch, one European ambassador noted. You could feel the shift happening. Behind the scenes, palace aides were watching too. The visit had been structured carefully, with Camilla scheduled for key roles. But one by one, those slots were reassigned. Catherine took on 5 major engagements, twice the number originally planned, and she delivered flawlessly. No missteps, no delays, no hesitation. Palace officials quietly admitted afterward, this wasn't just Catherine helping, this was Catherine taking over. The state visit became more than ceremony. It became a message. One queen was stepping back, another was stepping in, and the world saw it happen in real time. But for those who followed the crown closely, the shift wasn't entirely unexpected. In fact, it was written between the lines of two very different speeches, one in 2022 and another in 2025. The words may have been royal, but the meaning? Revolutionary. Two royal speeches, then verses. Now. When King Charles III gave his first royal speech as monarch in 2022, just days after the death of Queen Elizabeth II, he made one headline promise, that Camilla would be known as Queen Consort. At the time, the decision was seen as a bold unifier, a way to solidify a divided legacy. Camilla had long battled public resentment. The title was meant to seal her place. Fast forward to October 2025, and Charles's second speech told a very different story. Delivered from the White Drawing Room at Buckingham Palace, it was shorter, colder, more focused. He spoke of personal health challenges within the family, a quiet nod to Camilla's ongoing absence. Then, without warning, he praised Catherine directly. She embodies the values of the crown. She represents our future, and she steps forward not in waiting, but in duty. No ambiguity, no future tense. Royal analysts immediately noticed the shift. In 2022, the king had spoken with emotion about love, memory, continuity. In 2025, his tone was urgent, tactical. The crown was not looking back anymore. It was adjusting to survive. One royal historian described the speech as a coded succession plan. Others were more blunt. It was the end of Camilla's reign and the beginning of Catherine's. What made the contrast even starker was what Charles didn't say. There were no reassurances about Camilla's role, no mention of recovery or return, no soft messaging to ease public concern. Instead, he offered recognition to Catherine's leadership during the Trump visit, her public service, and her growing influence on young people. In just under 8 minutes, the king had done what few expected. He repositioned the monarchy and redefined who carried its future. One former royal aide put it this way: he didn't fire anyone. He didn't need to. He spoke, and the throne shifted. But that carefully worded address was only part of the story. Behind the palace gates, a very different battle had already played out. Whispers of tension, decisions made in private, and a queen quietly phased out, one calendar engagement at a time. What really happened behind palace walls? Behind the grandeur of royal speeches and public events, Buckingham Palace had been in crisis mode for months. As Camilla's absences piled up, discussions grew tense. According to one senior courtier, private talks began as early as June 2025. The topic: whether Camilla could or should continue her role as Queen Consort. Some insiders say King Charles remained loyal to the end, resisting pressure to make a change. But others tell a different story. One described a frank and painful meeting between Charles and his advisors in mid-August, where they reportedly urged him to consider a shift in public roles, not a removal, but a quiet rebalancing, one that would center Catherine in all major state functions. Within weeks, those changes began. By September, Catherine had taken over 3 of Camilla's scheduled events, including a major charity gala and the state visit prep meetings. Staff close to the Queen Consort were reportedly heartbroken but unsurprised. Leaks from Clarence House spoke of exhaustion, even hints of resignation. Camilla herself allegedly pushed back at first, insisting she could return in full by the end of the year. But time and the press were not on her side. Meanwhile, palace courtiers began quietly updating official documents. On internal event sheets, the title Queen Consort began appearing next to Catherine's name. It wasn't public, not yet, but within the walls of the palace, the change had already happened. By the time Charles gave his October speech, it was no longer a choice, it was a confirmation. The chessboard had moved, and Catherine, she wasn't the backup queen anymore. She was the crown's next move, and its strongest one yet. So how did Catherine rise so smoothly, so silently into the role? The answer lies not in one moment, but in a decade of quiet, relentless work. While others chased headlines, she built a royal resume that was simply undeniable. Catherine's queenly resume. For those paying attention, Catherine's rise wasn't sudden. It was strategic, steady, and earned. Over the past 10 years, she's quietly built a reputation that now stands unshakable. While others stumbled or courted controversy, she delivered. From early motherhood to global diplomacy, her path wasn't paved by privilege, but by patience. It began with children. In 2012, she launched initiatives around early childhood development, pushing for reforms in education, emotional well-being, and parental support. Some scoffed at first, another royal with another soft campaign, but Catherine didn't fade. She built partnerships with scientists, educators, and mental health experts. By 2020, her work had influenced national policy. She wasn't playing royal, she was leading. Then came the international stage. With William, she took royal diplomacy into the Middle East, South Asia, and Europe. Her 2023 visit to Jordan drew widespread praise for cultural sensitivity and diplomacy under pressure. At home, she became a cornerstone of the Royal Charity Network. No scandals, no outbursts, just work, quiet, constant, and meaningful. By 2025, her calendar rivaled Charles's in volume and significance. And through it all, she kept her image clean, not manufactured, but respected. Poll after poll showed public trust. At the height of royal crises, when others wavered, Catherine's approval never dipped below 85%. To the people, she wasn't just admired, she was trusted. And when the monarchy needed strength, they didn't turn to Camilla. They turned to the one woman who'd been doing the job long before the title ever arrived. But for Catherine to rise, someone had to fall. And now, with the spotlight shifting, Camilla faced the one challenge no title could shield her from: fading favor in the eyes of the people. Camilla's fall from favor. When Charles named Camilla Parker Bowles Queen Consort in 2022, it was a gamble, and a bold one. He asked the nation to forgive, to move on from decades of pain and accept a new royal chapter. For a while, it worked. The public warmed. The press backed off. Even critics began calling her dignified and hardworking. But deep down, something never quite settled. Her connection to Princess Diana's memory remained a quiet, painful shadow. Every appearance beside Charles still carried whispers. Every crown she wore still sparked comparison. And when Camilla struggled to keep pace in 2025, that uneasy acceptance unraveled fast. She didn't stumble with scandal. She disappeared with silence, and the nation noticed. Headlines turned from polite curiosity to open doubt. "Where is the Queen Consort?" asked the Telegraph. "Fit to rule?" asked the Mirror. Old controversies resurfaced. Stories from the 1990s reappeared on front pages. For younger generations, the history felt fresh, not forgiven. And in Camilla's absence, Catherine's strength only highlighted the contrast. Even inside the palace, the tone shifted. Aides began referring to Catherine as the central female figure of the monarchy. Camilla, once praised for bringing stability, now represented fragility. Leaked emails revealed Charles had cancelled Camilla's autumn tour appearances as early as August, long before the public announcements. Quietly, the institution was preparing for a future without her. By the end of 2025, the question wasn't whether Camilla had lost favor. It was whether she had ever truly had it to begin with. But even as one royal chapter quietly closed, another was already blooming in full view. With Catherine stepping into her crown, the world turned to the man by her side, the future king who may be more crucial than ever. William and Catherine. As Catherine rises, so too does Prince William, not in title but in presence. Together, they form a royal partnership that's reshaping the monarchy for a modern age, one that blends duty with relatability, formality with real, visible heart. And, in a country craving stability, they're delivering it together. William, now 43, has stepped deeper into his role as the next monarch. While Catherine handles public image, William drives policy. His work on climate change, veterans' welfare, and mental health has shifted from surface-level support to long-term leadership. In 2025, he quietly co-authored a report that helped restructure UK environmental grants, a move barely reported but deeply impactful. But it's not just the policies, it's the image. Together, William and Catherine are raising 3 children, balancing royal duty with normalcy. Images of them at school pickups, weekend matches, and low-key shopping trips have reshaped how the monarchy looks and feels. They're not playing at being relatable. They simply are. And that has captured the public's heart in a way no royal couple has done since Diana and Charles, before it all fell apart. What makes their union even more powerful is how seamlessly they lead. During the Trump visit, they were described as synchronized. At banquets, they move with unspoken signals. At press events, their messages align. There's no visible division, only unity, something the palace sorely needed after years of rifts and resignations. In a time when the monarchy has wobbled, William and Catherine have become the crown's compass, the steady hands guiding it forward. But was all of this part of a master plan, or a desperate act of royal survival? As the dust settles around Charles's shocking declaration, one question remains: was this a strategy or a silent emergency? A palace strategy or a royal emergency? To the outside world, it looked seamless. A speech, a change of title, a graceful handoff. But inside Buckingham Palace, sources paint a far more chaotic picture. Charles's declaration may have been public, but behind it was panic. Insiders now say the transition was never meant to happen this fast. Camilla's decline, Catherine's sudden dominance, the state visit's success, it forced a royal pivot under pressure. One former advisor said it bluntly, it was a crisis dressed in pearls. The palace couldn't afford another scandal, another stumble. With Camilla unwell, the throne needed a face, and Catherine provided one the people loved, trusted, so the title changed, quietly, urgently, strategically. Some believe it was all calculated, that Charles had been planning the shift since early summer, using the Trump visit to gauge public response. Others argue it was survival, plain and simple. That without Catherine's presence, the monarchy risked appearing weak, fragmented, or worse, irrelevant. Either way, the outcome is undeniable. As of October 2025, Catherine is Queen Consort in title and in function. There was no coronation, no golden announcement, just a quiet, seismic shift, one sentence in a royal speech that redrew the lines of power. And now, Britain enters a new chapter. Camilla fades. Charles steadies. And beside him stands the woman the people already call their queen, ready or not. And just like that, Camilla is out. Catherine is in. No press conference, no teary goodbyes. Just one cold signature from King Charles III, and history was rewritten again. For a monarchy built on pageantry and permanence, the silence spoke volumes. Not a single word from Charles, not a wave from Camilla, not even a glance from the palace balcony. But the shift was undeniable. Camilla's name was stripped from the official court circular, her patronages reassigned, her office disbanded, her title, once fiercely defended, quietly erased. It wasn't just a demotion, it was a removal. And in her place stood Catherine, now titled Her Majesty the Queen Consort, dressed in soft white silk, standing beside Charles at a recent investiture. Not as a guest, but as the woman now carrying the weight of the crown. The message? Crystal clear. Camilla's era is over. Behind the scenes, sources say the decision had been brewing for months. Camilla's ongoing health issues, her continued absence from royal duties, and the wave of support behind Catherine created a storm too powerful to ignore. But what tipped it over? One insider claims a heated meeting in August 2025, where Charles was reportedly confronted by senior courtiers, either step aside or let Catherine step in. His decision came quickly, and some say coldly. For Camilla, this wasn't just a role lost, it was a legacy undone. After years of climbing public opinion, battling comparisons to Princess Diana, and finally being crowned alongside Charles in 2023, her exit felt sudden, brutal, almost surgical. And yet, the public didn't mourn. Polls taken within 48 hours of the announcement showed 92% approval for Catherine as Queen Consort. Streets across the UK echoed with cheers as news broke. Social media exploded with the phrase, "The Queen we've been waiting for." Because Catherine hadn't just stepped in, she had been preparing for this moment for over a decade. Through scandal, silence, and sacrifice, she endured. And now, she reigns. But questions remain. What happens to Camilla now? Will she retreat to private life? Will she speak out? Or will the palace bury this story with time? And Charles, once so determined to crown Camilla, now stands beside a new queen. Was this a decision made from strength or survival? The monarchy has weathered storms before, but this wasn't just a change of titles. It was a transfer of power, from the past to the future. From a woman the public tolerated to a queen they already adore. Catherine didn't steal the crown, she earned it. And now, it's hers.